Welcome to Spokes and Strategy, Marketing the Bicycle with Brandon Morphew and Chris Mailman of Miso Partners. Hey, Mike. How you doing, Chris? Great to see you. It's been a while. I have a privilege of welcoming Mike O'Connell. I have the privilege of working with you, and both in a capacity of coworkers as well as I was a sales rep that called on your bike shop many moons ago. That's how we met originally. I picked up the phone and called you. I can remember being deathly afraid of the guy on the other end of the call, and you were as warm and welcoming as anyone could have been. So it's great to see you,
Aw,
as
you're one of my
always.
favorites.
Yeah, yeah, I miss those times. I mean, I enjoy every time we get a chance to chat. But it was always fun to come and see you, and you're a great customer and great friend. So I'm grateful, and thanks for making time to chat with us.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Do you still miss the flutters of that like first interaction with the shop, not knowing what you're gonna get?
Um, this is so interesting because I'm making some phone calls now for
Oh,
the
sure.
the business, and it's one of the hardest things to do. It's the sort of like reaching out to someone that you don't know, that you don't have a relationship with, and like asking them to like give you some time and have a conversation is it's like it's so hard. I have anxiety. I'm not an anxious person at all. I don't really have anxiety, and it does. It's one of those few things that like it's uncomfortable. It's really hard. As Chris knows, I was sort of complaining about this just yesterday. We were on a call with a coach that we work with, and yeah, I was complaining about this challenge. This is the hard part. So I have my job has changed. I wear a different hat now, but the that process of reaching out to someone in sales in general is still there. So
I
I have a
think as a
secret to
field
make it
rep, it's
easier.
actually easier because you can like you show up in person to a place that's open to the public and you can bring a gift. And it's kind of a
mm,
little bit in how you enter. Like if you walk in and it's super busy and you kind of check yourself at the door and realize like now is not a good time to interrupt the business of the store, and you just kind of drop your card and say like I see that you guys are busy. You can't really do that with the phone. You can't drop off a bunch of samples, you can't drop your business card, you can't bring a box of donuts. All you can do is
So
interrupt whatever they were doing.
is that your gift? Is I was gonna ask you what's your go-to gift? Do you get to know like what each shop likes? Is it generally a box of donuts?
I don't want to give away everything because there's going to be shops that are like Mike only gave me lube, he never gave me donuts.
that's
If if I have like a pre-planned meeting and it's kind of a big one and it's usually it's a pivot dealers, I'll bring donuts. If I if the timeline works out that I can stop at Colonial Donuts on the way, sometimes I leave my house like 4 in the morning to go to shops and like Colonial
Mhm.
opens at 5. So I don't want to show up with Dunkin', no offense to Dunkin' Donuts, but like if I'm gonna show up with donuts, it's gonna be these are the donuts from my town from a shop that's been open since the 60s. Enjoy. Um, and
I
as
like
of
that.
course, as an independent rep, where all of my expenses are my own, that's also difficult because like I'm spending my money. I don't have like some company card, so you can't do that every day. But I have Pedro's, and I have this like endless supply of bike care products that I can show up to a shop and say, "Here is one of everything," and then you
I,
don't usually
I
get kicked out when you drop off free stuff.
I still have some Pedros floating around. Like Matt gave me a bunch of Pedros, and I love it. It's still a regular part of my routine. It's a fantastic product, and it's a good gift. That's a nice thing to be able to. So I'd love to take a minute. So we know you're an independent sales rep in the bicycle industry. Um, you did own a bike shop, but I'd love a little bit of the Mike O'Connell story. How did you get, to where you are? And you know, it doesn't have to be the hour long version. It could just be, the 5 minute version. But I'd love to hear about like, your background, what you did, how you got into the bike. Like to me, like there's such personal stories. Everybody's, in the bike industry typically has kind of been bitten by the bug and that passion. So And you've dipped your toe into so many aspects of this business. You are a fascinating person from where I sit.
Oh, thank you. How far back do you want to go? Like 11-year-old to the paper route? Like
That's a great place to start. We don't have to stay there, but yeah, like
it's
yeah,
it's
you
actually kind of where this really did start, right? Like you grew up in I was born in 79, not to like date myself too much, but like the late 1900s when you went out on your bike every day. You went fishing. It was you disappeared in the morning and you might come home in time for dinner and your parents just kind of knew that was the case. And that was life. And I tell my kids about that all the time, like riding my rusty Free Spirit BMX bike that I saved up all summer for to buy from Benny's, with a fishing rod across, and eventually saving up to get the Huffy I always dreamed of that could have a newspaper rack on the back so that I could get a paper route to make more money. When I was in the early double digits of age, my neighborhood friends and I, we all had paper routes, and we would go do our paper routes together. And if like, someone's family was going on vacation, you covered your friend's route. And it
Mhm.
just became like part of the day. It was this thing we did, like rain or shine. And I can't believe that that's just so much harder to do now with the way traffic is. Like when I drive down the street that I used to live on and I'm doing 45 and someone's trying to pass me at 50, I can't believe I used to leave at age 10 on my bike and be gone for hours, and my parents have no idea. And that's kind of where my love for bike shops begins. Is there was a day that it was pouring rain, and I got a flat tire on my paper route because I had way too many newspapers in the rack of my Huffy. And Rob Reuter, the owner of Silver City Bicycles, I didn't the concept of a bike shop I didn't even know of. Like to me, if you said we're gonna go to the bike shop. I was like, yeah, I know where Benny's is. Let's go. I'm really dating myself mentioning Benny's. And the owner of Silver City Bicycles pulls up in his, I think they were called Aerostars, that like old minivan that seemed to only come in green.
Yep.
He pulled up and it had like Silver City Bicycles on the side, and he helped me with my flat. And then I got another flat immediately, and he was like, "I'm just gonna bring you home." And he helped me do like the last couple of houses on my paper route, and he dropped me off at my house. And later that week, I showed up at the bike shop to thank him, and like I wanted a job, and he's like, "You're not old enough to work here," and and like I bought this like the cheapest of the cheap takeoff specialized saddle for my Huffy, and I felt so cool. And I kept
Mhm.
showing up at the shop. They opened at
Yeah,
10. I'd be sitting on the curb at 8. Like, I was a super annoying kid.
I do.
And they didn't really get like annoyed with it. They kind of embraced it. They like, hey, do you want to like sweep the floor while you're here? And then there came a day where I bought like my first real mountain bike was a 1998 Stump Jumper M2 Comp Hardtail, that black and yellow one that everybody had with the red Ritchie pedals. It was $1,500, and Joe Wilson sold it to me. And the guys at the shop were like, "Let's go for a ride. Meet us at Massasoit." And before you knew it, I was working there a couple of days a week, working at the grocery store. Eventually, worked at Olympia Sports for forever. And no matter what I was doing, bikes were a part of it. And getting into adulthood, I worked for Olympia Sports, and RIP Olympia, one of the coolest
Yeah.
family-owned stores there could be. Like people would refer to it as like the Ocean State job lot of sporting goods stores, right? They were messy, and it was like, look at this
Yep.
bargain. But the people were the best people you could ever know. Like I still keep in touch with some of them. And we talk about it. Like remember we had to wear these like red polos with like black wind pants, and like
Hmm.
that was the uniform. And I'm
Remember?
getting way off topic, but that's how I learned
No.
retail. I learned it from
Yeah,
Olympia.
it's great.
Um,
Yeah, they're a
I
great
couldn't even
retailer.
talk. Yeah, I couldn't even talk to people. Like that was a thing. I was like so super shy, and I started working there at Christmas time at Silver City Galleria Mall, and they like made me talk to people. Like they just kind of threw me out there, and they were like, "Sell shoes," and I'm like, "I don't know anything about shoes." Like, well, you better learn, or come January when we're letting people go, you're one of them.
Yeah.
So, and I learned retail. I learned customer service. I learned merchandising. That company had some of the best mentors you could hope for. The the store managers in training, the district managers, the most down to earth, helpful people. Everybody wanted to see you succeed, and I learned a lot of what I still apply today from those leaders. Fast forward, I went to um, I deployed overseas to Iraq. I was in the army, and while I was there, I wrote the business plan for my bike shop. And the plan was to come home and buy Silver City bicycles, but it went out of business while I was gone. So came home, opened my bike shop, ran it for over a decade. That's how we met.
Mhm.
Chris, I'm not sure if you were born yet when I owned a bike shop.
Yeah, when do you?
You were a
I
youngster.
think,
I was
You
born
you know you were
2000. You were
you were lighting
no.
up. You were like I'm kidding. You were lighting up our events at a young age. Like you could tell someone drove you there, and then you were
yeah,
like,
and
it's like
events. I mean, I almost forgot about like you have a storied history of running bike races in New England as well. On
oh
the South Shore, I think you've got some pretty fantastic races that I've participated in that are you know a lot of fun and yeah. So how did you get there? Like what was the shift from? So you're a bike shop owner,
hmm
and then like as an extension of being we need a race. Was that kind of how it worked? Somebody needs
sort
to do
of.
this.
I have to preface this with none of these things are me things. These are we things, right?
Okay.
Like the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that bike shop started with my cousin who had just graduated high school. Randall Charwood. He moved from Virginia and lived at my house, and he was like employee number one. And then, we gradually recruited more people to work at the store, like Bob Nash and Nick Garant. And I'm gonna miss some names, so I can't keep going. Um, but the racing thing really happened because there weren't a ton of races in Massachusetts where we are. The closest good race was Landmine. There was a Massasoit race for a while and it went away. And we really wanted to have an event at Freetown because that's where we rode. We rode Freetown, and the Big Bang hadn't happened since the late '90s. So we got together with some people and we dialed it in and we put it on and we had no idea what we were doing. We had like arrows you couldn't follow that were basically permanently nailed to the trees. Like you had to actually get them out with a claw hammer. Like no idea. We didn't It's not that we didn't listen to anyone. We didn't ask anyone how to do anything. We just kind of did it our way. But people really connected with it and it came time to have another event and another and another. So at one point we were putting on 8 events a year and we had to make it a separate company just in case somebody got hurt at a race and sued the bike shop. And
Yeah.
that's how Rock Hard Racing was born. And at the time, it wasn't just the employees that were into it, it was our best customers were also really into it. So you've got Team Spark that it's got 50 something people on it, and more than half of them will show up and help you set up the race and then go race and help you run it and give you feedback and make it better for next year. And things just kept growing and our community kept growing. And and then in turn, it helped the bike shop in more ways than you think. It actually helped us get to know other shops better, which I think is
Hmm.
super important for bike shops is, it's not, I don't want to say it's us versus the internet, but it's kind of us versus the internet,
Yeah.
right? As
Well,
bike shops are not like bike
no, I
shop
this
versus
is
bike
such
shop.
a this is such a I think it's like I almost look at it like a legacy problem. Like this is a thing that's like part of an industry that's no longer the industry it was. There are some exceptions where you've got a guy across the street, right? There's places where there's, a bike shop here and a bike shop there. It does happen, but overwhelmingly your competitor is not the the other guy that's a town over or two towns over. Your competitor is the online the online retailer, the large Amazon, absolutely, Backcountry, Jensen, all these folks that are they're good retailers. Is nothing against them, but that's who you're competing against. Like
Right.
you're really, yeah, you're not. And so I think we regularly talk about this with bike shops is you have an opportunity to kind of like the rising tide lifts all ships. And so if you're in this, like, the pie is only a certain size, and if I don't get my slice, the other guy does, or if the more I get, the less the other guy gets, the more the other guy gets, the less I get. That's just not true, right? It's this, there's a lot of people that want to ride bikes, and if they can buy their bike from you, they will. And so I think it's such a good point, like this idea. And I love that you got that out of the races you put on, the events that you put on, that actually connected you. Because I'm sure that helped the shop, is that helped the business as well, not just like having a relationship, but also like building community, whether it's the events or rides, building relationships, sharing inventory. Sometimes you need something today, sometimes it's I don't know where to get this, can I get it from my neighbor, can I borrow a cup of sugar, kind of thing. So I love that. I think that's really good.
Yeah, and some of that actually came from the feedback of the first Freetown 50. Was I'll never forget. Um, we wondered where was Bike Barn, where was Bike Works, where was Scotty's Westport Bicycle. There were a few people from those stores there that are all local that all ride Freetown. And I'll never forget Rui Ferreira said, "Well, it kind of felt like a Spark cookout."
Mhm.
And we were like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said it was Spark everywhere, Spark tents, Spark people, everything was Spark. So in the following years, we started asking other bike shops to help,
Mhm.
and that really made it more of a community thing. Like I remember Scott Martin, who created some of the best trails in Freetown. Oh, sorry, maintained. He definitely didn't create any trails that didn't exist before, that aren't the best trails in Freetown. Uh, he maintained some amazing trails that just happened to pop up one day and rediscovered them. So he went out. He did a ton of work with people from his team and his bike shop. So at the event, we did Instagram posts. We had signs for Scotty's Westport Bicycle, like "Thank you for maintaining this section." Um, and we did a lot of things like that to bring other shops into the mix. Like I remember we were too busy. Cross Toe Beer Fest was the heaviest lift of any of the events. It was the most work, and we'd still write a check at the end for like $3,000 for how much money it lost. And I remember my employees being like, "We can't also do the neutral support at the event." And here comes Spikeworks in Swansea. We'll do the neutral support. And by the way, there's like 50 people coming with us that are going to race and hang out. And it really
Awesome.
built the community, and people were looking forward to the events. And I got to know, uh, I don't want to miss anyone, but the main one that sticks out in my mind is Brian McGinnis from JRA Cycles. Brian would show up and he'd be like, "Thank you so much for putting this event on. I brought 15 members of my team. My shop didn't sell Pivot." He'd be going to my employees and saying, "You should ride my Pivot. It's the best bike you'll ever ride." And I'd be like, "Get away from them, Brian." Like, so, um, but it really helped get to know people and really open the lines of communication and let people see that bike shops can work together on things. And I think it's so important. And you do see it in areas like we just saw it on an industry ride you were talking about, where
Mhm.
some of my favorite shop owners were so excited to see each other. Their shops are hours apart, and you could
Mhm.
tell they hadn't seen each other since the industry ride last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great ride, and those, it's hard to do, right? It's hard to bring all those people together. It's a it's a commitment from everybody. It's hard to pull away from a day you're running a business. It's like it needs to be managed. And so yeah, I'm grateful for all the people that went, and for Jim and George and Walter and all those guys for putting it on. It was really cool to see. Yeah, so
The
so you're now you're a rep. So what's going on now? So what does your day look like? What is your like what's a day? And I'd love to know, like, kind of what's working right now for you. Like, what are the things that you're seeing? You don't have to name names on shops, but like, what are some of the things you see shops doing that you're sort of like that's, I like that. That's really good.
Oh man, there's so much of that going on right now that, again, I don't want to name names on shops either, but
Yeah.
it's so many shops, if they were to just share some of these things they're doing with each other. I like to say you can do everything right and still lose, but you can do a
Yeah.
lot of things wrong and still win if you
Mhm.
do just a couple of things different than you did them before. And there are shops winning with their group rides. There are shops winning with their follow-ups from service. That's such a big thing. Calling
Mhm.
calling a customer to ask them about their service, which to me can be just as much anxiety inducing as calling someone to talk about their market. Like, you want to call someone and ask them how their service went, but you're like, I sure hope they're happy
It
because
went
even
well.
if you
Yeah.
do everything right, even if you did everything right, for all you know, they're not happy because of, say, the price, or maybe they ran over glass that first ride and got a flat, and they're like, I just had this thing tuned up. So there's like anxiety there, but the shops that really embrace that, they
Mhm.
call their customers after they
Yeah.
pick up their service, call their customers with a new bike, like, how's it going? Do you want to come on our group ride? Those shops are really showing that it's a transaction. They're running a business, but they're showing that it's more than that, that they actually
Mhm.
care about the customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the
I
ways
think
shops are winning.
I love that. I think, like we have a net promoter score, which net promoter score is it's a survey. You basically are asking feedback from every customer interaction. So every time a customer goes through your register, they get a receipt like pretty quickly afterwards. They get a survey. So whether it's service or a sale, how do we do? They're just getting our text message or an email. How do we do? And it is painful when it's not going well. But if you don't listen, to your point, it's like that feedback is invaluable. Like understanding how your customer feels about you, like that is exceptional. Like to have that, and most people will give it to you straight. Like if you give them a chance, and if there's something wrong, you can address it right away. Like if somebody had a bad experience with a mechanic, or they had a bad experience with a salesperson, or you know they got a flat right at like that a little bit of glass, like that's if it's a good customer, you probably just bring it in and get it fixed and get it back on the road right away. And now you've shifted something where they might have put their bike away and not ridden for a while. Like that happens. You get a flat and you don't ride. I mean, like not everybody rides, every day or every other day or multiple times a week, and not everybody's so if a flat tire can be like I don't ride my bike for the rest of the year kind of thing. So yeah, it's a really good point. What else is happening that you're seeing that you like that you think
Uh,
is
Group rides, just being out with your customers, and it's similar with sales reps and shops. Is shops tend to want to connect with the sales reps that come ride with them, which isn't always
Mhm.
possible, right? Some of these shops are 5 hours from my house, so but shops want to connect with their sales reps, and customers want to connect with their bike shops. And going and riding with your customers goes such a long way. And it's really easy, I think, to forget that that ride is about the customer and it's not about you and your speed. It's about making the customer feel good about being on the ride with you. I do think that's a trap that some shop owners will get into, right? That they won't want to ride with someone who's slower than them, or they'll be afraid of riding with someone who's faster than them, um, without thinking about the fact that this person just wants to ride with you. Like so and so from Joe's bike shop. I'm trying to name a bike shop that doesn't exist, and I just named one that exists. Uh, like, wow, he wanted to go ride with me, and he was so nice, and he gave me a gel when I was bonking. Like that's invaluable, and I think we need to see more of that.
Yeah.
You know, some people just want to go ride with the same people they always ride with because they're who they're comfortable with, but we need to get more people on bikes. So seeing new faces and making them feel comfortable is a big thing. I think we
Yeah.
all can spot the beginner, right? Like I remember there was a guy who showed up to the group road ride at Spark, one of the first ones, and he had basketball shorts on, and he had an actual floor pump sticking out of a backpack, and his
I
intention
love
was
it.
to ride with it. And
Yeah.
how easy would it have been for one person to make fun of him and ruin cycling for him forever?
Yeah. 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 I
And you
just
could
I
see
just
him looking
laughed.
around.
I just laughed at
Yeah,
him, and
well, it was
I did it.
hilarious.
I shamed him. I'm terrible.
Yeah,
How did I
it's
get where I am? Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
but
Yeah.
people picked on him a little bit, but then they
Hmm.
helped him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, I don't want to wear all the tight stuff. I look ridiculous. And then they were like, well, would you go fishing in a business suit? And he's like, well, no. It's like, but you look great in a business suit. It just doesn't look right when you're fishing. Like, here's why you wear the tight things. It's mostly about the chamois. It's somewhat about aerodynamics and breathability. Here,
Yeah.
this is a mini pump. You don't need to bring the floor pump with you. Um,
Yeah.
it wasn't even the end of the summer. He looked like a pro cyclist. He got all the right things, with the right things. But really, all that mattered was that he enjoyed riding his bike. If he enjoyed riding his bike with the floor pump hanging out of the backpack, great. So, but I think we're like gatekeepers to the sport sometimes when we should
Mhm.
swing the gate wide open and just keep inviting people in.
Totally. I think that like so many that's where a lot of shops kind of fall down is just not being welcoming. So if somebody walks into the service department and they don't understand the different bottom bracket standards or understand what brake pads they need or understand even just like wheel spacing, they're like they look down upon them, and that's your customer. And so I do think that's like such an important thing, like kind of carrying that throughout the group rides and service and everything like that. So yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
COVID was really hard in that way that the flow of customers was really coming in at, I want to say 8 to 10 times the
mhm.
flow it had been. And there was frustration, there was anger, there was need, there was non-understanding of things. We had political differences. We had COVID is real, COVID's not real, mask, no mask. Why can't I come in the store? I had many days where someone would have to like tap me on the shoulder and say, I don't think you should talk to customers for a while. And and because it was so easy to get frustrated because of all the things and you wouldn't remember that those are things that the customer in front of you does not know. And it's so easy in any job for that to happen. And I'm as guilty
Mhm.
as anyone of forgetting that. And I'm not proud of some of the interactions I had with people in that time. And it
Yeah.
was so hard to step back sometimes. And it's so hard in any situation to step back and think about how people don't know what they don't know and how you can learn from someone just as easily as they can learn from you. And I think about that all the time when you see like a shop have that interaction with someone. I say this all the time too. It's been like 6 years since I owned a bike shop, and I kind of wish I could go back and do it again with everything I know now, all the experiences that I have now, all the different perspective I have on things, like how differently I would treat my employees, how
Yeah.
differently the shop would be set up to better serve our customers. No.
Well, what is if you had like let's say if you had to call out one thing, let's talk about employees and customers. So if you had to call like one thing when it comes to employees, what is a thing that you would do differently?
So that's tricky because there, I think every business owner would love to pay their employees like six figures.
Pay them more.
Um,
Yeah.
but the reality is in this business, it's so hard to figure out how to do that. And I would like to have spent more time on how to do that. And I still don't really know what the answer would have been. Um,
Yeah.
it might have been
Commission
fewer
maybe?
employees.
Fewer employees.
Commission could have been one. I didn't. I always wanted it to be a team environment, so that's where
Hmm.
commission can get. I worked at Circuit City in the commission days. It was pretty cutthroat.
Yeah.
It
Dog eat
was not a
dog.
team
Yeah.
environment. Yeah, it was not a team environment. It was someone swiping a sale because you went to the bathroom. Um, but the one of the things I thought was maybe if I had had fewer employees, I could have paid the ones who worked more because they'd be working more hours. But then you
Hmm.
run into, everyone wants the same weekend off to go to the cool bike
Yeah.
race, and you've got no one to work. So, but I think paying employees more is very high on the list. I mean, people don't really think about how much. Let's just take a bike mechanic. Like how much that person needs to know to effectively do that job at even a mediocre level. Like in this, and think back to when it was just 26-inch wheels and triple chain rings, eight speed freewheels, right?
Hmm.
You needed to know a lot back then
Yeah.
to do this job. You had to take some pretty great care in the work that you were doing, and you were making minimum wage. And now
Yeah.
we're still paying some of these people minimum wage, and they need a laptop for half of the things they do.
Yep.
Like they
There
have
were
to connect a
a lot of
computer.
automotive level repairs in a lot of cases where they're doing electric bikes, there hydraulic brakes, there's electric shifting systems. Yeah, this is not the same. There's a lot of, software is, regular people have apps that connect to their, but I think most people, a lot of people do. It's pretty common to have, to tune things on your bike with your app. So that this is yeah, it's a new time. And yeah, it's a good question. So I guess like, bleeding over into the customer side, like what are some things you do differently with customers?
I think I would have turned a lot more of it over to my employees.
Mm.
And that sounds weird, we're talking about the customers, but listening to my employees, especially as I grew as a shop owner and with age and hearing what they would tell me the customers want versus what I thought the customers want. Sometimes I just say, "How do you know that?" And they'd be like, "Mike, they tell us. They just don't tell you." And I think this is important in any business. It's listening to your customers and providing them what they want for an experience. And part of that is the surveys you were talking about. Give someone a
Yeah,
keyboard and they'll really tell you how they feel.
yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
it's interesting because as you were talking, like there were a couple things when you were talking about the rides and stuff. It made me think about like inclusivity in general, like not being a gatekeeper, being inclusive, and that I think that like that is a thing that takes an awareness. Like like I think I remember being in my 20s and working in bike shops and making fun of Freds. Like the it's a term that Chris knows or not. I don't know if that's like an old if I'm dating myself, but
Oh,
guys
I
that
know. Yep.
yeah. And like it was kind of mean, like and I'm sure, that's part of being in a group exclusive, sort of having like the in crowd and the out crowd. But I think from a business point of view, I wasn't, I was a team member. I wasn't an owner at the time. And I don't think I did any favors to the bike shops I was working in by having that attitude. I didn't really have that perspective at the time of being welcoming and being open and understanding that, like how many different people come into the business and they're scared, they're afraid, just like, we were talking up front about the, picking up the phone and making a call and going into a place that you're not familiar with and you don't know anyone and you're not good at and you're learning for the first time. I'm sure I've shared this with you for almost like, I don't know, 8 years. I coached beginner mountain bikers with Nemba here. It was a ride. It was so close to my house, like I couldn't not do it. It was right down the street from my house. So it was like I could ride my bike to the ride. And then it was Monday night over the summer. And it was always beginners. It was a beginner ride. So it was always these wonderful people that were just, it's amazing to see like these people. So one of the people that joined is now the president of GB Nimba. So she came
Wow.
on as a beginner and came in and yeah, I don't think she'd Mary McCarthy. She's fantastic. She's a wonderful person, but she was new to mountain biking. It was a new thing. She went on the ride and she just loved it. She just, you got bit. A lot of us get bit. You get bit by that bug, and yeah, I think it's hard when you're new, and especially for myself. I'll just speak for myself. When I was that age, I knew everything. Like I was a know-it-all. I knew all that I could do no wrong, and I think that was not true, and that was my mentality at the time. And so I think it's easy to fall into that gatekeeping mentality. It's easy to fall into that like the in club and the out club and sort of and I think it's even within that it's got a hierarchy. Like there's certain you're a racer, or you're a downhiller. You've got cliques within cycling that really do kind of keep people out. So it's especially from a business point of view and community, it's something I think that's really and that made me think about having like that really high empathy. Like how do you instill high empathy in people so that they can understand, they can walk a mile in someone else's shoes, they can understand that these people that are coming into their four walls are nervous, are uncomfortable. Maybe they're somewhere on the, they may also be grumpy people too. Like there's all sorts of everybody's coming from different places. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
one of my one of my favorite stories is it was kind of the heyday of Team Spark, where I think we had reached 75 members. It was pretty big, and a considerable amount of them were triathletes.
Hmm.
And that was really fun because they would go on the group road ride, and then they did this all on their own. No one organized it. You're familiar with like a brick training? You run right after you ride. Most
Yeah.
triathletes do it. Even if it's a short run, they go take a run after they ride. And they started recruiting people who were not triathletes to go for a run after the bike ride.
It's
And
cool.
and we would do this so summertime group road rides, and then come fall we would say, hey, the group road rides are ending. We're all going to start mountain biking. And all these triathletes would say, well, hold on. I really like riding with you guys. Tell me about this mountain biking thing. And then they'd all buy mountain bikes and they start mountain biking with us. And then they were like, wait, hold on. How come there's no ride this weekend? And we're like, oh, a bunch of us are racing cyclocross. And they're like, all right, what's cyclocross?
It's like lacrosse.
And 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 I remember like the Plymouth cyclocross race, everyone people were like, I don't know what Spark is, but these people are everywhere. And it was mostly triathletes trying to figure out how to get on and off their bikes. And some of them became great cyclocross racers, some of them became amazing mountain bikers, like going out and doing Leadville, right? And gravel wasn't really a thing at the time we were doing this. But I'll never forget there was a bet that I didn't know had happened that required if they did a bunch of them did their first mountain bike race, a bunch of the people that would only mountain bike had to do their first triathlon. And at all these mountain bikers of all shapes showing up and they're like, I need to rent a wetsuit because I've got to go do Whaling City Tri. And it was this amazing team camaraderie thing. And it all came from everyone wanting the group to stay together.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time, like how important that was for everyone to want the group to stay together and everyone encouraging people to try new things. And it's not that different from you take someone on their first mountain bike ride and they keep saying, I'm so sorry, you know what, I'll just go on my own and like telling them to stop apologizing. Like don't say I'm sorry, I'm slow, say thank you for waiting and then stop saying it and just ride. Nobody cares. We're happy you're here.
Yeah. I love. I got a lot of joy out of that. I wish I was doing one, down the street here because it would be nice to. Maybe I'll see if I can get one going at Cutler.
You'd be
Um,
shocked to learn, Brandon, that there are still beginner mountain bikers.
I would be shocked. I'm sure. I thought I had taught them all how to ride mountain bikes. Um, well, I'm curious. Um, like when you think about like what's going on, and I can share mine, but like what's going on in bikes right now, and whether it's like work, business or just like bikes in general. Like we were kind of joking around about 32-inch wheels earlier before we jumped on, and I think those are really fun. Like I love that idea. I'm also really excited about all the digital marketing options there are in the world right now. Like AI to me is like this amazing tool. But is there anything that you're really excited about right now that's happening, in bikes or bike adjacent?
So I can't say that I'm excited about 32-inch wheels, but I'm intrigued. Um, and I am in a way selfishly excited because I do know what innovations like this that change standards do for the industry. I
Hmm.
also know what they do to the industry. When you think back to 29-inch wheels, there were so many companies that were slow adopters to it. And even though specialized, we were a specialized dealer at the time, they came out with the Epic Evo, and it was a single chain ring 29-inch full suspension Epic. And I looked at that and went and bought a 26er with a double and was like, that's silly. And that bike came with a dropper post, which I immediately took off because I said, I'm never going to use one of these things. And there was so much of that at the time. There were companies saying like, oh, we're going to go 27.5 because it's the best of both worlds. And you all of a sudden no one liked the bike they owned and they needed a new bike. They had to go get a 29er. And then the second they did, disc brakes on road bikes.
Hmm.
Now no one likes their road bike anymore. They need a disc brake road bike. And disc brake road bikes then created gravel, something that you couldn't really accomplish within the frame with, the brakes in the way. I mean, you could, but it was cyclocross bikes. And what that did for the industry was drive customers into bike shops curious about these new products. Is 32-inch wheels going to be the next 29er? I don't know, probably not. I'm 6'3". I want to ride a 32-inch hardtail the second I can. I just want to know. Like
Yeah.
if it can be what 29 was versus 26, that would be amazing. So I'm just excited about people innovating. I have the good fortune to work for Pivot Cycles. I'm the New England Pivot Cycles rep, and Pivot starts working on the next model the day after the new one launches, right? Like I'll
Yeah.
take the Trailcat for example. The day after the Trailcat launched, I'm sure Chris was writing the prototype for the one that's going to come out in a couple of years, and it won't just be a different color. It won't just be a half an angle on the head tube. It'll be something innovative. And that's what I love about the bike industry. There's you can separate the companies that just say this is blue now and it was red from the companies that say we integrated all of the suggestibility into this bike so that you could make it your own, and we added in-frame storage without gaining weight, whatever it is. I love that companies are innovating for the sake of making things better as opposed to innovating to try to make things obsolete just to get you to buy another thing.
Yeah. It's it's interesting because like a car, right? Cars come out with a model year every year, right? That's a thing, and it's you can make a lot of arguments that a lot of the innovation that happens in cars is not real, right? It's a different color, it's a little bit of a tweak of an interior. Every once in a while, there's big shifts, right? You've got the heated seats. That's a nice thing. The heated or cooled seats too. The ABS. Like there's things that happen in auto, and I think automotive is a good industry to look at because they have a lot of the same issues. They're working with low margins on the it's a high capital intense business, so they have to make really big investments in the inventory. It ends up being a service business. So I think it's a really good like industry to look at, and they have a similar kind of thing. I've always wondered why more manufacturers didn't do like models instead of model years, because it would be nice to have stuff carry over the year. And I get it. You need new, you need the
Pivot does that actually. So that's an
yeah.
interesting thing. Is
Yeah.
Pivot does models and they don't do model years, and so they're they'll change, they'll update colors and stuff, but
Mhm.
they'll do like this is the Mach 4 SL, and
Yeah.
it's not the 20. I mean, when people are selling them used, of course they list them all year, but the color may change, but
Mhm.
the model itself will stay the same.
Yeah,
Nice.
quite a few
I don't
bike
think I knew
brands
that
are
about
not doing
Pivot.
model years. Yeah, there's quite a
Yeah,
few that don't do model years anymore. Trek actually, they for a number of years would say we're not going to do model years, and then they would continue to do model
they would
years.
do
But they
model
did
years.
start doing generations, and I think
Mm.
generations is a nice way to do that. Pivot does that in a way, um, like Switchblade V2 versus V3, like that's how they'll differentiate it. I think Ibis does it too. Quite a few brands do that now.
Mhm.
But it's funny when you go to sell your used bike, people will say, "What year is this?" And when you tell them that these don't have model years, they get like mad at you.
Mm.
And and I think model years was a way to force more product in to a dealer and force them to discount what they have. And consumers
Yeah.
would always see that as an opportunity. The absence of model years really removes that and makes the risk lower for the dealer. I love the idea of, a bike comes out, it's in two colors, and then a third color gets added, and one of the other colors carries over, and the other one kind of becomes this unicorn. Like if you
Mhm.
got it, great. If you didn't, sorry, they're not around anymore. But it doesn't have to go on clearance just because it's the old color.
Yeah,
For
I
those of
like
you who
that too.
can't like see me, like I'm making little quotations with my fingers, like the oh that's the old color, let's put it on sale drives me crazy because there's someone who would love to have that color if they could just find it.
Yeah. It's interesting. So you made me as you were talking. And you mentioned Trek. I one of the things that I kind of think is exciting, and I saw it. I think it was the rep. I can't remember his name from Trek had the full suspension gravel bike, which I thought
Hmm.
I thought I thought
The
that was. Do
checkout.
you know? Yeah. What is his name? Do you know? I apologize. I should
Ah,
know his name.
don't put
All
that
right. Never
on me
mind.
because I did talk
Sorry.
to him and I don't remember his name now.
Yeah.
Super nice
Sorry.
guy.
Yeah. Really nice guy, and was the bike's really cool. Like I was that was one of those ones I'm like, yeah, this is probably where it's going because I looked at it, I was like, bigger top. It's like it is a mountain bike, but it's also you get in that position, the road position. and you're a lot faster on the road. Like I think it's just you're kind of like you are getting some pretty nice benefits on both. So I don't know, Chris, is there anything that you're excited about right now that's happening
Yeah.
in bikes that are sort of like you're getting jazzed about?
Well, related
Careful,
to that,
Chris,
I
you
think
signed
it's
NDAs.
well, related to that,
Anything that's
I think
public information?
there's no right answer. Like the way gravel bikes are going, when gravel bikes came out, every brand would have a gravel bike. And that's
Mhm.
like saying, imagine now if you said, oh, this just each brand has one mountain bike.
Or
Like
one road bike?
we would
Yeah.
think that would be ridiculous. And what's
Mhm.
interesting with road bikes is actually more and more brands are downsizing they're creating their all in one arrow, whatever. But yeah, with gravel bikes, there's brands are coming out with more options to suit different customers. So yes, there's people who are racing, and for some people, racing means I want really wide tire clearance, but I want aggressive geometry. There's people who do adventures. I want wide tire clearance. I want, kind of more progressive, more relaxed, more capable on downhills, that sort of geometry. And there's people who are like, I want a bike that I can take on the road and take off road a little bit. And so brands are starting to adapt to that, and I think that's cool. And it is interesting because the gravel's evolving so fast that brands almost can't keep up because like Mike was saying, brands have to start planning really early, and what happens is that just people's tastes are changing so rapidly. I mean, the fact that mountain bike tires have come into gravel. I mean, a couple of years ago, like 45s were wide, and now it's like I never race anything less than a 50, never. Uh,
Really, less
and
than a 50? Wow.
Nope, never. And I have 45s on my bike right now, and they look tiny. And it's just amazing how fast things change. So it's exciting to see that, yeah, how things are adapting, and the new options brands are coming up with just to suit different customers, and not just uh you know here's what's best for the pro racer, but like here's what's best for the actual like normal consumer, and here's what the normal consumer should buy, and we're going to push that instead of trying to sell the person the bike that, say on the road, for example, the guy who won the Tour de France is riding, which for most people is not the right bike.
Yeah. No, not at all. Is there anything like from a like maybe from just the industry? Like I know you're in the gravel sort of pro gravel space. So is there anything that you're seeing that you're just like I'm like this is it, man. This is the way. I'm doing this thing that you know. It's like there's like change your world. Anything in particular?
I mean, wide tires are pretty nice, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, that's kind of
How wide is the wide? Like how wide would you go?
I mean, I the bike I race at Unbound, I've got 225s on there right now, and yeah, the Torre Peyote 225, and it's just rolls super fast, and it's
Mhm.
it's just nice because you can go out on a ride, and you don't have to decide what you're gonna do. You can just like,
Are we
it's
talking about your Pivot Less SL that you put drop bars on,
yeah.
perhaps?
So I the one I spent forever trying to figure out, trying to get fit to fit, but it's like that, or with modern XC bikes, if you put fast tires on that, you can go for a gravel ride and have a lot of fun, and then take it off road and take it on proper mountain bike trails and have a lot of fun because they're so capable. And I think that's really cool where because I just like the type of rides where you go out and you don't really have a plan, and you can just kind of decide on the day what you want to do. And so I think it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how shops adapt to that, and how shops are start shifting. Okay, like are we going to try and sell stuff that's kind of this kind of all around super capable sort of things? Because in my opinion, a lot of people are on, for mountain bikes specifically, are on too much bike. They have too
Mm.
much travel,
Yeah.
and I think like I haven't owned a bike with more than 120 mils travel in a long time, and
Mhm.
even if I wasn't racing, I still would have my Mach 4SL, just because it's like I'm not hitting 15-foot drops, and it climbs well, descends well, it's sufficient, it's light, it's all you need.
Yeah. I do run out of bike. I love that bike. I'm on.
You are a
I'm
better
on this.
rider than me.
I'm not a better rider, different rider. I think like that. That I think if you're going to a park or you're racing downhill, or racing enduro, that's a bigger bike. There's no way around it. Like you're just on a bigger line. Like, you need to be like 6 inches, 8 inches off the ground, not 3 or 4 inches off the ground, right? And
Most
that's
people aren't. Most people who have 170 travel bikes aren't doing that though. Like
yeah,
people around here riding it on trails that I ride my gravel bike on, and it's not like a skill thing. It's just, it's just creating a more enjoyable experience
yeah.
versus seeing what somebody is riding on TV and being like, aspiring to that, which is great. But it's also
Mhm.
like, I do it with myself. Like, okay, what am I actually doing? And like thinking, would I really need this much bike? And it's interesting. That was one thing. Like when I was at a shop, working at a shop, um, that was something I'd always tell customers when I was like a high school kid. But I'd be like, look, like these bikes, and even okay, I guess I'd call myself old. This was like 7 years ago. But like even then, the bikes were so capable. You got 130 miles of travel.
Mhm.
That was like our number one seller at JRA was a 130 mil travel, 130 front, 120 rear. That was the perfect bike for around Boston for most people. If you're
Yeah.
riding Linwoods, which is a super technical area, and actually like just really sending stuff, yeah, I mean, you want some more travel, but
Mhm.
you can you can do a lot with
Oh
smaller
yeah,
bikes. I think that's cool.
absolutely. There's guys that ride hardtails with a 140 fork up front and are crushing a lot of that stuff. So I think, like your knees, your legs are the best suspension. Your legs and your arms are the best suspension. That's great. And but we didn't even get a chance to talk. I'm looking at your t-shirt, Mike, and I'm thinking endurance stuff. You have a line of like clothing, you do gloves, you do custom clothing. Like I actually I think about this about you. I don't say often, but I do when I think about you sometimes I think like how the heck are you doing all these things? Like how do you do all of this like your family must be like, Mike, you need to stay home, you need to come home, like stop working. Like how are you Daddy, come home. We miss you. I mean like I just look, I'm like you got so much shit going on. It's impressive. I have a little bit of envy.
So in the early days of parenthood, when my kids were first born, I really wasn't home, and my wife got to enjoy a lot of things that I missed because we were starting the bike shop. When I got home from Iraq, and we had she bought the house while I was gone, and we were planning a wedding, moving into a home, starting a bike shop all at once, and just a few years later having our first child, Emma, and Zoe 2 years later. And she spent so much time with the kids, and she would tell me, like, you should come home for dinner. Like, you should. And I started doing that more and more. And I do regret the time that I missed with them. But over time, I learned to be more present and be around more. Ultimately, one of the reasons I agreed to sell the bike shop was during COVID, I was home with them. And everyone was talking about how nice it was to spend more time with me. And I was like, you know what? This is nice. So I sold the bike shop. And uh, but endurance threads have been started as a house brand within the bike shop, and rock hard racing had a little bit to do with that too. So I took endurance threads with me, and I took a run at making it like a full-time thing, because I had endurance threads, I had Ride Maple, the wheel company, which is since in other hands now. Pat up in Vermont's doing a great job with Ride Maple, and what I discovered was it's an excellent creative outlet that does not require me to work full time at. I can't even imagine what it would be if I worked full time at it. But my true love is using it as a creative outlet, doing fun things with it. It's a business, but it's not the focus. Being a sales rep is the focus. Helping bike shops is the focus.
Yeah.
It's a
So
community as well, though. I think like one memory I have of this year, and I think I've told you this, was being, I live in Colorado now, and I was in this gravel race, this local event up, it was like the July 4th, July 5th, or whatever that weekend. And a lot of these races is pretty common where near the end of the race you end up overlapping with other distances. And we're 3 miles from the finish in this dead straight section of the road, this block headwind. I was pretty miserable. I pass this guy, and he yells, as I pass him, he yells, "Endurance threads? Are you from New England?" And that was just like,
we've
it,
made
it
it.
does create it does create a community where it's like people just see that logo and they're like, oh, like a lot of people don't know what it is, but it's if you're from New England, it really it's a connector, I think, which is cool, and I think it's been cool to see. Like you go to, like I went to I guess it was Secret Squirrel CX last year, the Thanksgiving one, and just seeing everyone, the clothing, and just the community is it's a good community builder as well, which I think is important.
I think my wife had asked me at one point like which things am I going to give up, right? Because kids are getting older, they're in other sports, they have other interests. They're also into mountain biking, which is great. They're on the Bobcats, which I also help coach in my area. And she asked like what will you give up? And I said I don't know what to give up because the races helped the bike shop. The bike shop helped the races. Endurance Threads was born from the races and the bike shop. So I'd tell her, I go, I don't know if someone's buying gloves and wheels because they came to one of the bike races and had a good time. I don't know if they're doing the bike races because they bought some gloves and got an email about the bike race. So we're just going to keep doing everything until the wheels fall off. And of course, that doesn't work. As things get bigger, um, one really cool thing about endurance threads now is that because I'm a sales rep, it's something that like when a shop gets excited about it and they want to bring it into their shop and put it on their floor, I'm not just a sales rep selling a thing. I get to see like that thing that I spent a lot of time creating and perfecting, right? Like the recycled mountain bike shorts that we just released a few months ago. I rode in the prototypes for years before I committed to producing the run of those because they needed to be perfect. And when a shop chooses to hang those on their wall, I get to walk in with a sense of pride that like I made that thing. And I sure hope that they sell them when I come in, right? Like I hate going in and seeing something that they brought in and it just didn't sell. Because now it's not just the thing I sold them, it's a thing I created didn't sell. But that's part of the fun of endurance threads is really getting to see people get excited about something that you make, and not indifferent to miso partners when the marketing works and you get to see a shop getting excited about something you guys did, right? Like I'm seeing that now with I'm going to give you guys a plug, rotation engineering, right? Like I went and took a tour of rotation engineering, and they were just going on and on about the work you guys were doing. And I'm walking around the place going, this place is amazing. And it's got to be a sense of pride when they're high-fiving you for the work you did, highlighting the work they're doing.
It makes it easy when you're working with good people and good products. I mean that I mean it's I think it's essential. I think it's like I don't want to say it's a cost of entry, but that's to me is like that just makes the work a lot easier. And they have a better product. I mean that's anyway. I don't want to plug too
I
much there, but
I think
that
that's yeah.
I'm excited about that product as well. So
Well, I think that's a good way to end. It's like, at the end of there's something about the bike industry. Like if you're working with good people, it goes a long way. And I could say that with, working with me, so partners, obviously work with you, Mike, from an athlete side and from a I guess technically coworker side. It goes a long way. And I also think it means it's a better experience for the customer. Like if people are happy at a bike shop or, anything in the bike industry, that tends to translate to have people treating customers better and have better customer experiences. So I think it goes a long way.
I don't know how you could not be happy in the bike business. And part of it is because it's like I just have so much joy around the bike. Like I just and you know what? It's not the bike that's not the fun part, right? It's the work that's not the fun part. It's that's the part, that gets hard. It's like because it's not easy. People dealing with the public is hard, dealing with customers is hard. So I think there are a lot of challenges that are included there. But there's a lot of really fantastic people. I mean, that's the thing that I love about, you know, the industry ride, working with other people that are in the industry, working with different groups. We have a good number of customers, and the bike people are the people I really enjoy the most. Like I just because they're there for a reason, and it's the heart that brought them there. And that's to me is there's not a lot of industries that have that sort of foundation, and it's a great way to sell too. I mean, you talked about community. You talked about like building relationships, getting excited about selling. I think all of these things, like these are the things that get customers lit up too. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys, good people, and the chance to get to share our relationship, all of us, Mike, Chris, and it's great to get to catch up and hear a little bit more of your story, stuff I didn't hear before, that I didn't necessarily know. I know a lot of these things that you do, but I didn't know that, like how they all got started. So I appreciate that.
I look forward to more of these episodes. I hope we're going to see more of like my colleagues, my fellow sales reps on here because that's we didn't really touch on the sales rep community, right? These people working in the background that are, putting in 14-hour days supporting bike shops every day, spending of that 14-hour day, spending 10 of it just driving. Uh, there's
Well,
there's so
our
many of
Dan,
them out there working so hard for bike shops. You did it. Yeah, you were I can't say everything you were coming in with was a winner, but I could tell you believed in it. You knew everything you needed to know about it, and it was getting its fair shot. And when you showed up with a winner, and it was really easy to say yes. It was really easy to say, all right, this product's great, Brandon's great, this is a no-brainer. We're gonna do this thing. And it was persistence, and I could genuinely tell you cared about my business.
yeah, I mean that's to a fault, like that's probably my fundamental flaw is that I care too much, Mike. I care too much. No, Chris will tell you, he'll see it. He's like, you can't give that shit away, man. You got to charge for that. So that's part of my problem is and I'm getting better at it. It's, that's, a challenge. Anyway, I really appreciate your time. We've got a lot of, you want to hear more. I think our dance card is full through the end of the year. We're actually talking about doubling up doing a couple episodes a week because there's been such a really positive response. So I
Oh, it's
really am
amazing.
grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful for your time. I really appreciate you carving out. We've managed to waste an hour together here, so I'm grateful for you guys hanging out a little longer too. And yeah, let's do it again. We'll grab some time, a little bit down the road, and when the season changes, and see what's new, what's been going on, and hear more about endurance threads. I want to hear more about what you've got going on there. I didn't even know you had recycled shorts, so that's shows you how much I'm paying
The
attention. But I want to hear more about them.
the other guy on the call is the model in all the photos.
Cool. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'll stick to marketing, I think.
Now you're a great leg model. And with that,
Yeah, you guys,
On
you
that
guys
great
have a
note.
great night, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks
all right,
for your
thanks
time.
guys.
Okay, take care.
Bye.